A storm is coming to Tulsa. And this time, it isn't from Dwight's enemies on the streets. It's coming from someone standing right beside him, someone he trusts. A new leak claims the Season 3 finale will end with a betrayal so shocking it could break Dwight's entire empire apart. And when you look closely at the clues, you realize the warning signs were always there. Hiding in plain sight. Ever since Dwight first stepped into Tulsa, he's been fighting battles on every side. But Season 3 pushed him into a corner like never before. His crew has grown, his enemies have multiplied, and the FBI is circling him tighter with every step he takes. And even though Dwight tries to project calm strength, the cracks in his world have started to show. In the last few episodes, we saw a shift, small moments that felt harmless at first, but when you replay them, something inside you whispers that they were warning signs. Dwight has always depended on loyalty. It's the foundation of his entire life, the rule that separates him from the people he sees as cowards or traitors. But the truth is, loyalty is getting harder to hold on to. The more success he gains, the more pressure everyone around him feels. Tyson wants a future that doesn't involve bullets and bodies. Bodhi is trapped between Dwight and his own risky choices. And Stacy is being crushed between her feelings for Dwight and the career she is desperately trying to save. Each of them is walking on a thin line, and Dwight is too focused on expanding his empire to notice that the people closest to him are starting to bend under the weight. What makes the situation even worse is that Season 3 has been quietly building a theme that fans picked up on only after the leak surfaced. The enemy inside the circle. Throughout the season, the camera would linger on small reactions, tiny looks of fear, hesitation, or doubt. Tyson freezing after a shootout. Bodhi staring at his computer screen like he's hiding something. Stacy swallowing her panic whenever the FBI pressures her. At first, these moments felt like personal struggles, but now, they look like puzzle pieces falling into place. Dwight believes he can guide or fix the people around him, but the more he tries to tighten his grip, the more he chokes the trust out of them. Each character has been pushed into a situation where betraying him could feel like the only way to survive. And that is what makes the leak so believable. Someone close to him will turn, not because they hate Dwight, but because they believe they have no other choice. The tension is also rising from outside forces. Chickie's people are quietly resurfacing, planting rumors and stirring distrust. The FBI is making promises behind closed doors, offering deals to anyone who might crack under pressure. Even casual interactions like a passing comment, a sudden phone call, or a moment where someone leaves the room to quickly suddenly feel suspicious when viewed through the lens of betrayal. The writers have skillfully built an environment where every character is carrying a secret, whether it's fear, guilt, or a plan they haven't shared with Dwight. And in this boiling pressure cooker, the smallest spark can turn into an explosion that takes down the entire empire. Dwight may be strong, but he is only one man, and the more powerful he becomes, the more he is surrounded by people who are terrified of sinking with him. The leak claims that the Season 3 finale, Betrayal, won't come out of nowhere. It will be the result of a slow burn that has been building throughout the season. And now that fans are re-examining each episode, the signs are impossible to ignore. Dwight is standing on a battlefield he can't fully see, and the real danger is the person who's standing quietly behind him, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The betrayal, if true, won't be loud or dramatic at first. It will be a quiet moment, a decision made in fear, a split-second choice that changes everything. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Not the enemy on the outside, but the friend who finally decides they can't follow Dwight anymore. When the leak first started spreading online, most fans brushed it off as another wild rumor. Tulsa King has always attracted fan theories, and every week someone claims to have inside info. But this time, the leak felt different. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, detailed, and oddly confident. The post didn't shout for attention. It simply stated that the Season 3 finale would end with Dwight being betrayed by someone who has shared his table, walked beside him, and earned his full trust. That single sentence was enough to send shockwaves through the entire fandom. People began to rewind scenes, rewatch character moments, and connect dots they had ignored during the weekly episodes. The more you looked, the more the leak made sense. It wasn't just guessing. It felt like someone who had seen the script, or someone standing close to production, was trying to warn viewers without giving away the entire twist. The leak was specific about one thing: the betrayal doesn't feel like a classic crime show double cross. It isn't about money or revenge. It's about survival. Someone close to Dwight is pushed to a breaking point and forced to choose between their own future and Dwight's trust. That's what makes the leak so believable. It matches the emotional pressure that Season 3 has been building episode by episode. As fans dug deeper, the timing of the leak made everything even more suspicious. It dropped right after Episode 9 aired, an episode full of strange pauses, quiet tension, and conversations that felt heavier than usual. Characters who were once confident seemed shaken. Tyson's silence after a confrontation felt loaded with fear. Bodhi's secret late-night meetings looked more like desperation than strategy. And Stacy's panic in her final scene hinted that she was scrambling to keep her own life from collapsing. It's almost as if someone in production saw how fans were starting to piece things together and decided to add fuel to the fire. The leak didn't name the traitor, but it pointed viewers in a direction that was impossible to ignore. The one you least want it to be. That line alone made thousands of viewers freeze, because Dwight has a small circle and everyone in that circle has something to lose. The idea that the betrayal comes from someone viewers have grown attached to makes the leak far more terrifying than a simple villain plot twist. Another thing that made the leak stand out was how it described the tone of the finale. According to the post, the betrayal is not explosive or loud at first. It happens during a moment of calm, a scene that feels safe, steady, almost heartwarming. The traitor is said to make the decision in silence, with a look that the audience won't fully understand until a second viewing. That level of detail doesn't sound like a random guess. It feels like someone trying to drop hints without risking their job. And when you think back on Tulsa King's style, it fits perfectly. The show loves quiet tension, slow burn conflict, and emotional punches that hit out of nowhere. A betrayal delivered in stillness, rather than chaos, lines up exactly with the kind of storytelling Season 3 has been setting up. Once this leak hit social media, discussions exploded across Reddit and X-fans began arguing, tearing apart scenes, and putting characters under a microscope. People shared screenshots of glances, nervous gestures, and moments where someone avoided eye contact with Dwight. Suddenly, every harmless scene felt like a clue. A small reaction, a misplaced line, or a strange look became suspicious. The most fascinating part is that the leak caused fans to notice things they completely missed before. Tiny details that seemed unimportant at first now feel intentional. The writers have been laying breadcrumbs all season, and the leak helped the audience finally see the trail. Most importantly, this leak changed how fans are viewing the finale. Instead of watching for action or violence, they're watching the people closest to Dwight. They're paying attention to who hesitates before speaking, who walks away looking guilty, and who seems unusually stressed. The leak didn't spoil the traitor, it sharpened the entire season. It framed the story in a way that forces viewers to look deeper, to question every character's motive, and to wonder who might finally reach their breaking point. Whether the leak is real or not, it created a level of anticipation that Tulsa King has never seen before. The finale no longer feels like a simple showdown, it feels like a countdown to someone's heartbreaking choice. A moment that could tear Dwight's world apart from the inside. From the moment the leak mentioned that the betrayal had been secretly prepared all season, fans raced back through every episode, and what they discovered was unsettling. Scenes that once seemed harmless now feel loaded with hidden meaning. It's like the show has been whispering hints in the background, waiting for the audience to look closer. The most surprising part: these clues weren't dramatic or obvious. They were quiet, almost invisible, exactly the kind of details you only notice when someone tells you there's a secret buried underneath the story. And when you thread these small fragments together, the picture that forms is chilling. Each major character had a moment this season that didn't sit right, a moment where their eyes gave away more than their words. Those are the moments that now stand out like flashing alarms, because they suggest that the betrayal wasn't spontaneous. It was slowly growing, episode by episode. One of the earliest clues appeared in a scene that almost every viewer forgot about. It came when Dwight offered advice about staying loyal, and the camera cut to a character who looked away instead of meeting his eyes. It lasted only a second. But now it feels like foreshadowing, a tiny flicker of doubt that hinted someone wasn't fully committed to Dwight's path. Later, in another episode, a different character lingered on the edge of a conversation, listening but saying nothing. Their expression wasn't angry or scared, just conflicted, like someone caught between two choices. At the time, it seemed like a moment of tension or stress, but the leak changed everything. Suddenly, it feels like the show was revealing the start of a slow unraveling. A character beginning to break under the weight of loyalty. Even the way certain scenes were framed feels suspicious now. The camera would sometimes isolate characters, pulling them away from Dwight in subtle visual ways. During group meetings, a particular character would sit slightly apart from everyone else, giving the impression that they were already drifting away. During confrontations, the show would cut to reaction shots that showed fear or frustration instead of unity. And in scenes where Dwight made decisions that put the crew at risk, you could see the discomfort building. No one said anything aloud, but their silence spoke volumes. That silence now feels like the soil where betrayal was taking root. It wasn't an instant decision, it was grown out of doubt, pressure, and fear. Another clue came from the way certain characters handled private moments. One member of Dwight's circle kept making unexplained phone calls. They would step outside, whisper a few words, and return with a stiff expression. The show never explained these calls. They were never brought up again. At the time, it felt like filler. But now it seems like the writers were dropping hints about secret communication, possibly with the FBI, possibly with New York, or maybe with someone even more dangerous. Another character had a scene where they found something troubling on their phone and quickly locked the screen when Dwight walked into the room. It lasted only a moment, but in a show like Tulsa King, nothing is accidental. These tiny sparks now look like the early signs of someone hiding information. What makes these clues even more convincing is how they grew stronger near the end of the season. In episode 8, a specific scene shows one character watching Dwight from a distance with an expression that wasn't admiration, it was worry. They looked like someone carrying a secret they didn't want to reveal. Then in episode 9, the shift became even clearer. A character who was once close to Dwight suddenly kept their distance, giving short answers, avoiding eye contact, and hesitating before agreeing with him. It wasn't open rebellion, it was silent discomfort. And those little cracks in their behavior now feel like the writers setting the stage for the final break in the finale. The final clue, the one fans can't stop talking about, comes from a late-scene moment where Dwight says, "Trust is everything." The camera didn't focus on Dwight as he said it. Instead, it stayed on the face of someone standing behind him, someone who looked shaken, almost guilty. That choice wasn't accidental. Directors don't leave the main character's emotional line just to show a random reaction. They do it when that reaction is the real story. And once the leak confirmed that the finale centers on betrayal, this moment became one of the biggest pieces of evidence. When all these clues are combined, the season looks completely different. The betrayal isn't coming out of nowhere, it's been built layer by layer, with tiny gestures, uneasy glances, and quiet moments that now feel like warnings. The finale doesn't just promise a twist. It feels like the natural end of a slow-burning tragedy. Dwight didn't see these signs, but the audience can now. And that makes the coming betrayal even more heartbreaking. As the leak suggests, the betrayal in the season 3 finale won't be driven by greed or revenge. It will come from a place of fear, pressure, and emotional breaking. That's what makes it so devastating. The traitor isn't described as someone who wants Dwight dead there, someone who feels trapped. Someone who believes turning on him is the only path left. And when you look back at the season, you can see how each character was pushed toward that breaking point. Whether it was Tyson trying to protect the life he wants, Bodhi drowning in the consequences of his own risks, or Stacy trying to hold on to a career that's falling apart. Each of them was backed into a corner that Dwight never truly saw. The leak says the traitor makes the final choice in silence. And that detail alone tells us everything about the emotional weight behind it. It isn't a dramatic confrontation or a heated argument. It's a quiet decision that grows inside someone's mind. The kind of choice that changes a person even before they act on it. And when that moment arrives in the finale, it will hit the audience hard, not because the betrayal is unexpected, but because it feels like a heartbreak we've been watching unfold all season. What makes the betrayal even more compelling is how it affects Dwight's world. Dwight is not a man who breaks ice. He has survived prison, loss, and betrayal before. But this time, the wound is deeper because it comes from someone he allowed into his circle. Dwight doesn't let many people close. When he does, he gives them a level of trust that almost feels like family. That's why this betrayal doesn't just threaten his life, it threatens his identity. The leak says Dwight will be caught off guard in a moment he believes is safe, which suggests that the finale's emotional punch comes from the contrast between calm and chaos. The scene might begin with Dwight relaxed, maybe even hopeful, before everything shifts. That sense of safety, that feeling of being surrounded by loyalty, is what makes the final twist so brutal. The traitor isn't someone who raised a gun at him enraged, they're someone who stayed silent, made a choice, and let Dwight walk blindly into danger. The fallout of that decision is where the real story begins. According to early theories, the betrayal doesn't end the season, it launches the next chapter. Dwight's empire has been growing, but it's also been stretched thin. New enemies from New York, rising pressure from Tulsa, and the FBI closing in, have all left cracks in his foundation. The betrayal will shatter those cracks into fractures, forcing Dwight to rebuild from zero. But more importantly, it changes the dynamic of his entire crew. Once trust is broken, every alliance becomes shaky. The moment the traitor reveals their true intentions, or when Dwight discovers the truth, the crew will splinter. Some will take Dwight's side, others will freeze in fear, and a few might question their loyalty altogether. A betrayal inside the circle spreads like fire, fast, quiet, and unstoppable until everything burns. This sets the stage for a darker, more emotional season, for one where Dwight isn't just fighting criminals or law enforcement. He's fighting the ghosts of broken trust and the consequences of decisions he didn't see coming. And perhaps the most intriguing part of all is what this betrayal reveals about Dwight himself. Dwight has always believed loyalty is the strongest bond in his world. But this moment forces him to face a truth he never wanted to accept. Loyalty can break. Even in the hearts of those he cares about. He might blame himself for pushing too hard, or trust the wrong person, or building a life where danger shadows everyone connected to him. For the first time, Dwight could feel vulnerable, not physically, but emotionally. The leak hints that the finale ends on an unresolved cliffhanger, with Dwight left unsure who he can trust. That uncertainty becomes the driving tension going forward. Does Dwight seek revenge? Does he try to understand the traitor's reasons? Does he fight harder? Or does he start pulling away from the people he once protected? Every answer leads to a darker, more gripping storyline. What makes this entire twist so powerful is that it turns Tulsa King from a crime drama into a story about human weakness, emotional pressure, and the cost of loyalty. The betrayal isn't just a plot twist. It's the moment the show reveals how fragile trust really is. And for Dwight, a man who built his entire life on loyalty, this betrayal may be the one thing he never recovers from.